queues. And by workflow queues, I mean the digital process in which you'll be handling paperwork coming from Register of Wills office. I want to identify what your process is and who the users are, what the filing types are, or what the types of documents are, who gets them first, where they go after that, and so that we can come up with a process, and then we can put that into the test environment so that you can kind of, or like what we call a sandbox, so you can kind of go in there and move some files around, test it, so to speak, review it, and then you can provide us with any changes or any updates, modifications that you see fit, so that we can get this going live. So what I'm going to show you is after a document has been accepted in the Register of Wills office, it's already been identified as a case, it's been given a case number, the fees have been paid, and that piece of paper is, I guess, for lack of a better word, sitting on Lynn's desk waiting to be sent upstairs or wherever you guys are to your office to be worked. We are going to show you that process. So the digital process from when that document comes in from the Register of Wills office, where it goes to the scheduling order, and then having it come back. So I think you identified it as you schedule a lot of these for Register of Wills. Oh, you're muted, Jen.
Yes, sorry, I had somebody. Yeah.
Okay. So this is our, I'm going to share my screen, and this is our, what we call our QA environment. This is kind of our development environment that we use. We have something set up for you. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So because we don't know your processes, we don't have any queues set up. We don't have anything. It's very basic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the workflow process, and then I'm going to show you the what ifs, or you say, okay, well, it comes to me and then it goes to this person. So I can show you what that would look like. But right now, this is just our basic workflow queue. So you guys will have this on your, this is a link that you would click on. You could use it through Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, whatever you use, your internet browser. You would have this on your workstation, and you would open it up, and you would be able to see all of the workflow queues. So for instance, if Register of Wills only files specific filing types that you want, you could have a generalized review queue that everybody has rights to, or you could have your own individual specified queue. It could be a gen ragger queue. So if a document comes in through Register of Wills, we've identified it as an initial petition or a petition of XYZ that you need. We will identify those, and we will automatically send them to this review queue. So this is our development environment. We do a lot of testing in here, so there are hundreds of cases in here. Normally it wouldn't look like this much, but as the cases come through, they'll sit in this queue. You'll see these check boxes. So if you wanted to route multiple at the same time, you could. You have a lock, which is if this comes through and this is a shared queue, say three individuals in your office all go into this queue at one time and pull documents from it, you're going to want to lock it. And by locking it, it means someone else can view it, but only read only. They wouldn't be able to work it or edit it or change it. We give it an internal ID number, the status if it's locked. We have priorities. So you can identify, say, an emergency petition as a priority 1, or any initial documents are maybe a priority 2, but any subsequents that are just random petitions or motions, they could be a priority 5, and they'll come into your queue in a specific priority. If it's a subsequent, it's going to have its case number, the description or the filing type that was used, or the title of the document, the date in which it came in, and when it was filed, and the date and time in which it came into your queue. So maybe it was backdated 3 days prior, and then it came in your queue today. Those dates would be different. And then it gives you a date of how many days it's been in the queue. So obviously these have been in for quite some time, 415 days. And then you also have your wait, which means if, for instance, we use this in civil, and this is the only civil example I could give you, is if a petition comes in, or a complaint comes in, and you have 20 days to respond, the judge knows, well, I don't need to look at this for another 20 days, well, really 30 days. I'm going to put it into the wait queue. You can send documents into another queue where you can give it a date or you can give it the number of days. And after that, those number of days hit, it comes back into your queue for review. I don't know if you have any documents that would pertain to that, but we do have that ability. So once you'll get into your queue, you'll click the lock button here and you'll lock it. And it'll show you all of the case details. So this will be your document. So if this is a, can you give me an example of a document that gets filed by Register of Wills that would get sent to you, Jen?
Petition to settle small state.
Do you have,
Okay.
I mean, I have here, sitting here, I mean, I guess what we would just get would be a scheduling order, I'm assuming. Or
So
will
Lynn,
it
you
get
create the
the
scheduling
entire
order?
case, or are we just gonna get the scheduling order?
No, you'll get the whole thing,
Okay.
right? Lisa, they'll get the whole petition and the rule to show cause.
That's correct. So the proposed order that the individual will attach to their petition gets scanned in with the petition. So it's going to be proposed order, and then your second page is going to be your petition and any of the other following documents. So the first page here is going to be your proposed order.
No, I don't know if we.
So with this, we give you all the case details. So it's going to have your document, your proposed order, and it's going to have your docket number, your case caption, any other identifiers are going to be listed here. And then if you have multiple attachments, so it looks like this one has a main with 2 pages and then a confidential document attached to it. That's 3 pages. So you have the ability to be able to view all the attachments. So if an individual came in with, say, 600-page petition, all 600 pages will be attached to this, and you can flip through it and look at it. Now, if you don't need to look at the document at all, you don't have to skim through the docs. The only document you would need to look at is that proposed order. We do have the ability to require or even force the individual that's filing to upload a Word document of that proposed order. So they could have a PDF and then a Word document attached to that of that proposed order. So you can download it. It would show up here as an attachment. You could download it and Word opens up on your computer. You could then take that document and maybe change the date or maybe change the location of where you wanted to have it, not courtroom A, courtroom B. Save it and reattach it down here. And then we have a button up here that would say file order, and you could just go ahead and file the order. We also have templates.
So when,
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
Go
when
ahead.
the scheduling order comes in, the proposed scheduling order, and we go to put a date in it, are
Mhm.
we gonna be able to write in the PDF? Or are we having to generate a new order?
So you have one of two you have 2 options. You can either use the proposed order that the individual filed and scanned, and we can present that to you as a Word document, and you can go in and modify the Word document. Or we have the ability to attach a template. Say you have a standardized scheduling order that you use for every petition for small estates that come in. We can already attach that to it, and all you have to do is click on it and then enter the courtroom, enter the judge, enter the time, and just hit save and file it back, and it'll get back into Register of Wills workflow queue as a new order, a templated order.
Does it automatically then put the caption in?
It'll automatically put the caption, the case number, and any other information that we already know about that case. Normally, it would be any information up here.
Is there an e-signature approved for Judge Walsh, Lynn? Already?
What's that?
An e-signature for Judge Walsh?
No.
So we would have to print that out and have him sign it? Or I'm
No,
sorry. and
they can
stamp it
create
and
a,
send it-
they can create an e-signature
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
because they do that
there
for
might already
Aubrey.
be one from the pros that exists somewhere.
Probably.
I don't know. Okay. But that would be part of being able to fill out a proposed form, would be able to throw the auto signature on the bottom.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just did a Zoom with her.
And then you would save that document here and attach it. And then when you click, we would have a button up here that says file order. we would know what document is just the order. We would dump everything else, the petition and everything else that's attached, and just file that newly saved order that you just created. And it would go back on that case as a new separate subsequent filing type.
Okay,
Jen, I mean, there is kind of a standard rule to show cause just generally that we could create, as I know attorneys, I mean, you see all different kinds of rule to show causes.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and some of them have stuff on them that we end up having to cross off because
right,
it's
because
not
you can't
Yes.
order that, yeah.
appropriate.
So maybe
So
we
we're
could come up
actually-
with a standard rule to show cause that can come up as a Word document and everything.
Yep,
And then you can use that as long as it says what it has to say. It doesn't, we don't have to use the one the attorney proposes. Right?
I know that, I
Right.
know that the adoption ones have a little bit more verbiage in them.
Yeah.
But I don't know that just the standard scheduling order would be sufficient. I mean,
No, it wouldn't. We'd have to create the preliminary order that they do for adoptions. So when an adoption is filed, the case, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, the case knows it's an adoption. So
Mhm.
we could have that order, that rule to show cause would be the Word PDF that comes up, or the
Yes.
Word document that comes up. That's the standard one for adoptions, because that's the case type that it is.
Yeah, and we can have a library for each one, so it'll know what it is, and it'll present you the templates that are allowed to be filed on that type.
Okay.
Do you have any inter-office activity? So for instance, if something comes up to you, but you need the judge to look at it or the law clerk to look at it first, and then it comes back to you, or is this just strictly just scheduling?
And very rarely, there may be a case where I would take it to the judge, but I
Okay.
mean, most of the time we're scheduling on site. I mean, I don't know when people are coming to the window that there's really much of an opportunity where the staff would hold something to get back later. I think I've maybe had one of
Okay.
those this year. And then
Okay,
I would just
but we
print
do
that,
have the,
right?
you would
Or
just
no,
print it.
probably
Well,
because
we
I'm
do have the ability.
300 years old, but
Oh. Well, we do have the ability to route things. So for instance, if this was something that you question, if this document came up and maybe it's conflicting of a judge's schedule and you want to send it to a different judge's secretary and say, can you schedule this for me or give me a date? Or maybe you want the judge to go in and electronically file and not you. We do have this route button. And this route button, it can go to any, these are all the judges that we have listed here. So right now in our QA for prothonotary, we have workflow queues set up for all of the judges, their law clerks and their secretaries. So you could even pick out one individual person and send it to them. Or we can set up generalized queues for, say, scheduling or just maybe register of will scheduling orders or just for petitions for small estate. They only go in their own queue. It's however you want to identify them or however you want them routed. We can configure the queues however you want it.
Because
So
I
if I
think
wanted
the
to
rule
set
to
up-
show causes, their only different ones are in adoptions, because Becky now handles the incapacitated ones, which their language is a
Right.
little different. So I think for most things, because we aren't going to e-file minors petitions.
Well, just so you know, I know you said e-file, Lynn, this is for any document that you file, whether it's e-filed or over the counter. They go through this queue. So we treat them all the same.
Okay. So,
well, I mean, I guess I can see a concern there because if they're filing in person and they're sent up here to schedule,
Mm-hmm.
we're still then going to get those documents separately.
You are going to get them digitally in your queue. So realistically,
Okay.
this document is going to get to you before that person gets to you.
So,
well, yeah, unfortunately, we're not doing it that way. We're not scanning it right when we
If you're not
create it.
scanning it right away, then it won't go. It won't go.
So how are we gonna determine which cases truly need to be addressed and which ones have already been addressed? Are they just gonna have to sift through all of them?
Well, I mean, you can identify it. If you look here, we have a marker that says e-filing, and then you have one that says docket. So this was over the counter and these were e-filed. Now, I don't have to send all of the docketed, the paper ones to this queue. However, we highly recommend that they all go to the queue because you don't want to lose any of these. So this is for audit history purposes. We have the ability to be able to say, hey, no, this was docketed and filed, but you never got the paper. And so maybe you keep this in here until you get the paper one and you schedule it outside of the system, and then you just delete this one or you complete this package. Just so you've completed all of the petitions that came through Register of Wills. I think you're breaking up, Jen. I can't hear you. What did you, Jen, I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Were you saying something?
And we're not hearing you at all.
Oh,
Oh,
and
Gonna
she fell off.
reconnect. See, I guess, Lisa, I was just thinking of these in e-filing context, not
Mhm.
paper things.
Yeah. I mean, we can certainly just keep it for e-filed only documents. Um,
Sorry about that. They need to get me a new camera and they haven't done it yet.
no worries.
Good to have you back. We can hear you a bit better now.
So you're gonna have to repeat what you said. Unfortunately, I missed it.
So, I mean, we know that if somebody's going through these daily, that we need to address anything that says e-filing because those are the ones that haven't been touched yet, right? Essentially.
I mean, technically, even if it does say docket, unless that person came to you in person, that may not have been addressed either. If it's still sitting in the queue, it's technically hasn't been addressed. But like I told Lynn, we don't have to put the docketed ones, like the cashiered, the paper ones that she physically scans that come in over the counter or in the mail. We don't have to put these in this queue. If you want to keep your current process of having that individual walk up. Now, maybe you want to change that process. Maybe you want them to come into the counter, you scan you enter the data, you scan the document in, you put it in the file and you say, have a nice day. Well, you'll get email notification if they're a registered e-filer, or they'll get a paper document in the mail of their scheduling hearing date.
Well, the minor guardianships are 99.9% pro se.
Okay. So they're gonna get a
Um,
paper document in the mail.
Yeah,
So when
and
that
that's-
scheduling order comes down, Lynn, you pursuant to Rule 2.4, you send out a copy of that order to them, or you hand them a copy?
we hand them a copy. It's their responsibility to serve it.
Got it.
So generally what happens is we don't even see it prior to getting the scheduling order. They go directly to motion court or directly to court administration to get their hearing date. And then if they need an emergency order, they will go to motion court. If they need an IFP signed, court administration can do that based on their income, whatever that statute dictates. If they can't, then they can go to, they have the opportunity to go to motion court to appeal it to the judge.
Okay.
And then everything, they make copies in court admin and then they bring them everything down here.
Mhm.
And it gets filed. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Tammy about that. Because sometimes people, I mean, after motion court, the Monday after Easter, motion court was insane. Because I don't know, everybody figured out for minor guardianships. I mean, I think Paula got 6 of them like filed like within a half an hour. There's no way to enter that stuff and scan them in while we're sending them up to court administration for a hearing date. There's just no way, unfortunately. So,
I mean, I would have some concern about an attorney filing in person and then sending them on their way and saying that they'll get a date electronically, because
Him at the time of his.
a lot of them want to be able to clear their schedules and make sure. I don't want to have to send 4 rescheduling orders because we're doing it all electronically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you communicate with the individual at the door and he or she pulls their calendar up on their phone and you pick a date based on that?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming if they're filing it electronically, they're gonna get what they get, but if they're specifically coming here in person,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to send them one, because generally they'd be coming here in
So, right.
person to be able to have a little bit of give and take about when the thing gets scheduled.
Sure. And maybe that's a process that you want to keep and it
You wanna
stays,
schedule
you know,
anything
so,
with
and
them, or-
those, maybe the docketed
That's
ones
the
don't go in the
same.
workflow queue. Maybe it's just the e-filed ones. And then, you know, maybe 6 months down the road, you find that, hey, they're finding out that e-filing is a lot easier than coming into the office. And maybe they will make sure that their Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, when these are normally scheduled, they're gonna keep their calendar clear because they're gonna anticipate it.
Well, I think, Jen, normally you continue not to schedule anything by staff, right? If a staff member is bringing something in, you don't schedule it, does the attorney have to show up?
Exactly, got it.
Usually, yeah,
'cause
I mean,
that
for
used to be
now,
the
but we
rule.
were going to, that's the rule, but I mean, there have been times where the attorneys sent their, their runner, and as long as the runner can agree on a date, that's fine, but they're responsible for showing up on that date.
So
Yeah.
if somebody, and I mean, during the e-filing process, when it's e-filed, we direct it to your queue. Whoever's working on it's going to bring it up. They would generally then call the attorney to agree to a date. I mean, isn't that how that would work?
Well, I was just going to give it the next scheduled date and send it out,
Okay.
but, I mean, I don't want to spend 4 days playing phone tag with an attorney to
Yeah.
get.
Do you have specific, like Tuesdays at 1, you handle these types of cases and do you have a schedule like that?
No, we schedule for the year, the previous October, and that whole calendar is laid out, but there's no, a lot of times the kind of cases that we're scheduling through the orphans court are not, I mean, they're put in last because they have a little more flexibility where they can go. So they're random, very, very random.
Okay.
I mean, there are days that do different things,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
dependency, guardianship incapacitated, orphans court miscellaneous, that kind of stuff. But these calendars aren't really for out in the public, I guess.
Yeah. Understood. Okay.
I mean, the dependency stuff's never going to come through here because it's all OCY.
Right, right. Yeah, I was just explaining just the different dates,
Gotcha.
the blocks of time that we get. I'm all for just scheduling it and sending it out. So that's the other question the main question that Jen had was who's responsible for service?
So the system automatically, when the order is docketed, if they're registered to e-file, they will get a courtesy notice of that e-file document. It's not considered proper service. Depending on how your rules are written. So for instance, I can speak to Montgomery County local rules, is that the e-filing notification is a courtesy and that both sides are still responsible for serving the other parties unless they have, an email address that's of record with the courts, or they have an agreement that's on file that those notifications serve that purpose. However your rules are written would be still proper service. We do have that 2.4 queue, Lynn, where we put those documents in there and then you can, if it'll read and recognize if it's paper, it prints out a paper, and if they have an e-filing email address associated with their profile, we'll send them an email. So Jen doesn't necessarily have to sit up there and send these copies out. If your system, once you docket that order, will serve that purpose. You don't want to send it out twice.
So it serves the same way when, after Jen's office schedules the rule to show cause, they route it back to our office. We can accept it or deny it. Why would we deny it anyway? But then once we accept it, that's when it gets dispersed out, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, once it
So Jen,
becomes,
that's kind of out of your hands then.
Yeah, so really it's just coming here long enough for us to fill out the order and go back down to you guys.
yep,
Okay. So when my staff goes in, they're each going to be able to access this this
Mhm.
workflow
Mhm.
screen right
Yep.
here through the
Yep.
Court Pro.
you got it.
Mhm.
Now, if you
And you-
want to identify the queues by filing types, so if you want your Guardian in cap to have its own queue, your small estates to have their own queue, we can do that. Or if you want to say, nope, I'm Jen, I handle all of the small estates and all the Guardian in caps, I want them all sent to me, you can have just your own queue that only you have rights to. You're the only one that goes in there. We don't recommend that because if maybe you're out for 3 days, no one can access those documents. You also want to keep that in mind as well. Or you can have a queue that people have rights to. So multiple people have rights to the same queue.
That's the
Or you can have
plan.
one big queue and everything gets dumped in there and everybody just picks and pokes and looks at priority and sorts by date and they know what they need to do. And that's what Prothonotary does for e-filing because there's so many and so many different things that come in. It all gets dumped into one queue and then they just kind of work as a team to get them all out.
But really, anything that's going into our queue is only things that are going to need scheduled,
You
right?
got it. Yep,
Okay.
you're gonna identify what those are. So you're gonna say the only documents that I want to see are A, B, C, and D. And that's the only
Okay.
ones that we'll send to you. Now you might come and
So,
say, hey, I never got this proposed order on this case. And it's like, well, because the Register of Wills filed it as just a generic petition and didn't call it a petition for small estate. And we don't send you just petitions. They go to this queue over here. That you might have situations like that where you're like, you know what, it's better to just send me all the petitions and then I can weed and sift through them because sometimes I do get those and sometimes I don't, but I know when I need them and when I don't need them. You can
So I have a
also do
question.
that. Mhm.
Say we'll do a petition to settle a minor's claim, okay? An attorney e-files it and they don't have a rule how am I going to explain this? They said they sent it to the judge without a rule to show cause, and the judge looks at it and says, nope, I want a hearing date. How would the judge handle that?
Well, is that a question for me or Jen?
You.
Okay. So I guess then my question to Jen is going to be, how would you handle it in person with paper?
the human being would come from motion court or wherever, and they would come to the window. Generally, there's an order signed by the judge then that they want a hearing scheduled.
Oh,
It's blank, and then court administration just
Yeah.
fills in.
okay.
The
So
motion court judge signs that blank order for us to fill in the date.
would that document have went digitally to that individual first? Or no?
I would say no, because
How would
they're
it,
coming in person and going to the judge, and the judge is saying, I want to do a hearing.
so how did that document originate? What's it called?
Say it's a petition to settle a minor's claim, and they went to motion court to get it signed because they assumed they had all their consents and everything signed. But say it's the money is over $50,000 and the
Okay.
mom wants to be the guardian and the judge wants a non-relative co-guardian, which does happen after a certain amount of money,
Right.
and says, you know what, I want a hearing. then,
So the only way you're gonna be able to do this is if everyone's on board, or the only way you're gonna be able to do this digitally is if everyone's on board. So your petition to settle minors comp, when you send it to that person that does the rule to show cause, that person would have to be also receiving those petition to settle minors comp digitally as well. Would that be something they would be interested in? And issuing the rule to show cause in workflow? Because if that's the case, they can do them digitally, and if they realize, hey, actually, this needs to be in order, I need this scheduled, let me route it to Jen. She can just route that document and it dumps into Jen's. Jen will see this petition to settle minors claim and she'll be like, why am I getting this? And then she can read the internal notes that person A put on that document, which are comments here. So
Okay.
you can
All
add
right.
comments. I don't know why my keyboard is. That wasn't me. So you can add comments and then you can route it. All right, now I want to send it to Jen and route. This needs to be scheduled.
Who is
Okay,
sending
so-
that? They're coming back down to Register of Wills, and then you're
No, I
sending
think
that
the
up to me?
judge would
Or
be
the-
sending it.
Yes. So that petition to settle minors claim, you would have to get buy-in from whoever handles those to also utilize this workflow queue. So when they get that petition to settle minors claim in their workflow queue, they would identify that or speak to the judge and the judge will say, no, schedule that, send that to Jen. They'll click on it, route it to you with those comments. This needs to be scheduled per Judge Walsh. And they'll send that to you digitally. So then now you'll get that petition to settle minors claim in your workflow, just as you would your small estates or your guardian in caps. Or maybe you have a new queue that's just generic review queue like we have here. And anything goes in there and you have someone that identifies, maybe filings that come in from all departments of the courthouse.
I'm not adding staff to do this,
Okay.
so, I mean, I need to be kind of conservative about what kind of workload it's adding to my people if they're gonna have to go through and read all of these every day. I also think we've got to get buy-in from 6 different judges to do that. And I'm a little concerned that generally judges kind of have different ways of doing things.
Mhm.
Lynn, do you see us being able to just jump on board and do all of this digitally out of the gate with motion court?
Well, yeah, I'm a little concerned about how motion court's gonna go. I guess
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about that, and I know Judge Piccinini and Judge Walsh are all about it.
Yeah.
So I
mean,
know that a lot of the judges, if everything is consented to, if say, and I just saw something on Judge Marucci's door for motion court. If everything's consented to, you can just send it directly to them. So what they would do if she has motion court, they would file it digitally, they would e-file it, and then we would route it directly to the judge because she's got motion court. And then if the judge looked at it and said, you know what, I think I really do want a hearing on this, then they would route it to you. Your office would schedule, send it back to me, and then when I accept it, that order would be digitally or e-filed to whoever needs
Right.
it.
Now we can start slow. I mean, we can just do petitions to settle small estates, maybe just that filing type, and just try it out. Just e-filed petition to settle small estates and build. We can always build on it. We don't have to start big. And if you like this process and you say, hey, you know what, I want to add this filing type and this filing type, and then soon all your filing types will be in here.
Jen, would you say the majority of your how would I say this? The majority of your hearings for orphans court is minor guardianships?
Probably. Yeah. What do you think, Jocelyn, when you're scheduling at the window, when you get orphans court cases, what are the most that you're,
Like emergency guardianship.
like guardians?
Yeah.
They go to motion court for emergency guardianship and then they come here for a hearing date.
Yeah.
So yeah, guardianships.
The other thing that probably is the most would be Orphans Court gets those funny, weird petitions, like I just have one on Wattsburg Wrestling Club that they have to they're not paying some sort of tax. The AG's office filed it and obviously needed they would love to probably e-file because they could those types of things would need a hearing date, but wouldn't need to go through motion court.
Puerto Rico, China.
I think the majority like of the petitions to settle a small estate are signed in motion court. So we'd have to develop a system where if it was e-filed, and the judges, you're right, Jen, would have to be on board with accepting it all day, or do we only email them to them at 9 o'clock in the morning? You know what I mean?
And I don't know,
This is for the whoever has duty.
Yeah.
yeah. So if they're going in person to motion court, would the judge then scan all the paperwork in their office to make this now a digital process, or we would just stay with status quo for people that are appearing in person? A lot of those
Probably.
minor guardianships are pro se.
And I think we would stay with them being not digital.
Okay,
Lisa, let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
I just raised a question. I have lots of questions.
you need to tell me if you have questions.
So if an attorney does go to motion court, say it's Judge Walsh, and they like to e-file. We haven't created the case yet because we don't have the petition because they went to motion court. The judge cannot e-file that signed order because we do not have a created case, correct?
Correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
We actually, Prothonotary is changing their processes where they're starting to file them first. Because IFPs, right?
I'm wondering that,
So-
yeah.
They'll go all the way up to the judge and have the petition reviewed, have the IFP reviewed, and have a signed granted order. And they come down and say, well, how can this be filed? It's like, well, you can't e-file that order because you didn't initiate the case yet.
Yeah.
We have those all the time for custody.
Yeah, I know Erie County, you guys, your judges are willing to sign things that don't have case numbers.
Mhm.
I remember in Montgomery County, if you didn't have a case number, a judge wouldn't even look at it. They wouldn't even pay attention.
I've had
to
lots
it.
of attorneys from out of town from different counties say that it doesn't have a file number.
I
It
know.
doesn't have to have a file number because the way it used to be in this office, and it's not necessarily like that anymore, is that we would not accept anything over the counter unless it had a signed court order or a rule to show cause.
Wow. Complete opposite. Yeah.
We've changed that, but we'll accept anything. And it's up to the person to get the rule to show cause and I've run into that situation with petitions to settle a minor's claim. They filed
Yeah.
it. And they're from out of town. I call the office and say, hey, did you send a courtesy copy to the duty judge so they can sign it? And this happened just recently, and they called me back. Hey, where's my order? And I pulled out my note and said, I called your office and spoke to so-and-so, told them you needed to send it to the judge. And they said, oh,
Wow.
okay. So that's what they did.
Yeah.
And I just made a note, having petitions filed first and then,
Right?
Yeah, because we were always under the impression that the filing fee had to have been paid before, because that put money in the county's pocket. And so they paid the judges, and it was like, if you didn't pay for it first, we weren't going to do it. It was like a service kind of.
yeah, that's what I tell
Um,
people sending it in. Say, send me the original with the filing fee. In your
Mhm.
letter, state that you did do that so the judge know it has been filed. Send a
Okay.
photocopy to the judge to be signed.
Yeah,
And now with Court Pro, it's easier for the judges to go in and make sure that that's been filed before they sign
yeah.
it,
Mm-hmm,
because it's more user friendly than Infocon was.
right.
A lot of the IFPs we get are because they want to come down and do an initial filing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's, we create a case number for it. We put it in the outstanding balances and it basically puts it on hold and then we need the order denying or the order granting it to be able to move it out of that status. So granting it allows it to be an active case and Prasanna Terry just created denying it, closing it out, meaning that it's denied and then the case is closed, you can't proceed, or denying it, keeping it open for 10 days and then requiring the fee to be paid within those 10 days for it to continue to be an active case.
so the matter is actually started with the IFP before anything else
No.
is filed.
No, it started with the complaint or the petition, the initiation of the action, and the second filing would be the IFP, which would then remove that fee for a specific amount of time.
Assuming
have to
it'll be
have both.
granted, and then if it's denied, we put it in as a denial, then it creates an invoice, which is paid within
Yep.
however many days.
And yeah, usually the IFP rules are 10 days.
So Jen, with minors, we probably would just keep it the same way.
Okay,
Does that make sense to you?
it, it does. So really, I mean,
Focus and do your work.
we're not really gonna change anything as far as, especially considering most of them are pro se anyway.
They can't fill out a petition correctly. I don't know how they're gonna figure out how to file online.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, we get them without a caption, we get them without signatures, we get them,
yeah.
so,
Okay,
I mean,
so
maybe,
let's, go ahead, Lynn, sorry.
maybe at a later date, we would, figure that out, but,
Mm-hmm,
right now, I think the attorneys are gonna jump on board with e-filing. I mean, there's gonna
Mhm.
be several things that they can do, on the register size, not initial probate, but pretty much everything else they're going to be able to
Mhm.
do as an e-filing. And I'm not saying that we won't be doing probates e-filing eventually, but that's too much right now.
It is,
I
and
do
probate
think,
e-filing.
Yeah.
I think the understanding with e-filing needs to be, if I'm e-filing, I'm gonna get a date in the mail and that's my scheduled date. So that we're not,
If they're e-filing, if they're submitting it through e-filing, they've consented to receive electronic notifications, which means that when that scheduling order gets filed, the moment it gets filed, Lynn will send them an email saying that this has been docketed on a case you're associated with, and they get, I don't know, Lynn, how you have it, your, paper page set up. Do you allow, if you're gonna allow attorneys a free look, if it's their case, if they're attorney of record, they can
I
pull the
think that's what
schedule.
we're going to do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they can pull the scheduling order up from their office and they already have a copy of it.
So, but I think what Jen's saying is that they're going to have to understand that if they sign up for e-filing, the date they get is the date they get. Unless, are there any, there are notes in there, right? When they e-file, they could probably put, hey, I'm
Mhm.
going to be on vacation, and
I
you
mean,
could,
that's fair.
the
That's
attorneys
definitely
know that okay, it's May, we're scheduling into July right now, pretty much. I mean, there's some certain circumstances where it's earlier or later, whatever, based on what they need. And any attorney that's been practicing kind of knows that. And if they do know what of a vacation date that's going to maybe fall around in July sometime, to say, hey, I'm going to be on vacation for these 10 days or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm worried though, that might be a slippery slope, because then the attorneys might be like, okay, I'm available,
Only these
July
days.
4th or 6th at this
Yeah.
date, and I'm available July 9th at this date. And I don't know, Jen,
We're
maybe
not
you'd rather like that. I don't know.
Well, if there aren't, I mean, right now I'm scheduling into July for a specific kind of case. I mean, I might not have those dates. I
Right.
probably won't have those
Right.
dates
Yeah.
because most of these hearing types are 2 or 3 days at most per month.
Yeah.
So, but most of the attorneys that practice in Erie know that. I mean,
Yeah,
and I expect too, if they're gonna e-file and they have the ability to do a note, I would expect some of them stop at the window when they're in court and say, hey, I'm about to e-file this. What dates do you have that I can put on my notes? I mean, I can see that happening. So it might be that ends up being the practice, which is fine.
that's okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just gonna, anytime that we do that, we'll say, these are the dates that are available right now, snapshot today. That doesn't mean that they'll be available tomorrow, but right now, this is what you're looking at.
We do
Right.
that with scheduling probates too. People want to pre-schedule with us not getting the paperwork. And we try not to do that. Sometimes it happens, but we'll
Mhm.
say, as of right now, this date, and this date are open at this time, or all day is open. But when they call back 2 days later, then we're suddenly full and they get mad. Well, you waited 2 days,
Right.
know?
And I mean, generally, the policy has been here, once we assign a judge, once that case goes to that judge, if they need to reschedule a date, they need to seek that judge and have the reschedule done from the judge's office, unless they order it back here for us to reassign.
Okay, so the judge has control, or the judge contacts you guys to say what other dates and times, or do they know because of their schedule?
No, once that case is handed off to a judge, if an attorney needs a different date, they're gonna call that judge, and that judge is gonna
Okay.
look at their schedule and reschedule it within them.
And then
I mean,
that's when
there's-
you get the copy of the rescheduling order.
Right,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, well, let's, for review purposes, on your own time and at your own pace, let's at least get this workflow configured, get the filing types configured, and then Lynn, you can go into the test environment and file a couple of these, and then they'll get directed to Jen's queue. Jen, you can, mess around in there, route it to different things, edit some information, see how you see the look and feel of it, and then we can get some feedback from you guys.
How many money to be able to do.
So let's
Sorry.
start with the let's start with the
So we're gonna
users.
wanna
Who are
do
the
that
users
first.
going to be that you would like me to put in the test environment for?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Together for five.
Who are going to be the users?
It's paid.
For the
For
test
Lynn and
environment?
for my
Yeah, so
office.
like Lynn, you're L
Hallis.
Hallis. So I just need to know what those users are so that I can
Okay.
identify them in the system.
I would say me and Tammy right now,
Okay. And Jen?
and Jen.
And Kayla Roller, ROHLER,
Then you'll need the same information for yourself.
Okay.
and Jocelyn Massey, MASCI, is her last name.
60 days. That's why I was asking when you're getting yours.
Okay.
And this is just for tests, Lisa, right?
You got it.
Okay.
To apply, but it's gonna have the date on it.
So anything I do in this test it's not gonna be live.
It's
Okay.
not.
Correct.
So Lynn might attach a document that it is irrelevant to the case that she created. It could be Big Bird versus Kermit the Frog, and
Oh,
it could be just a blank piece of paper that's attached. It's just to get the look and feel of the workflow itself.
Does the test go through the court pro system, or is there some other way that we access it?
Ceremony, so.
So it's two different
Yeah,
environments.
a list
So
of
we
different
actually have
types of
three
stuff.
different environments. This is our QA system. It's a copy and paste. It looks and feels the same way. It's just titled differently, and the cases are different. It's just a totally different environment. You won't break anything. We
Okay.
just copied the environment over so that you can do stuff like this and not have to worry about it being live documents.
Got it.
We still do
Um,
stuff in test, Jen, even though we're live, because if they correct something, they want us to look at it. We
Mhm.
look at it in test first to make sure it works correctly before they put it into production.
Okay. So do we need to
Um,
have that installed on our computers up here?
It's just a link.
Oh, okay.
Alexa can send it to you, the links for the test environment.
Okay.
so that you can, it's just a link to the internet browser. And then I know you probably don't know this right now, but just so we can have something in there, some workflow queues. Do you think you're gonna want individual queues, or do you think you're gonna want document queues, like for specific documents, like petitions, or do you think you're gonna want like one general review queue?
We will probably have one group set up so all of court admin can check it.
Okay,
Maybe the document queues would be helpful. What I really need to avoid is sifting through stuff we don't really need to touch.
okay.
That's my main goal.
So Lynn, what I'm gonna ask you to do is pull out the initial and subsequent filing types that you have in your system and highlight the types that you want sent to this queue. And I guess you and Jen can work on that list and say, identify all of the documents that get filed that you want in that queue. Is it safe to call it uh orphans court review queue?
Yes. Because it would all be orphans court, even if it's a register of wills matter, like we have to remove a personal representative. It would start an orphans court matter through the estate.
Okay,
So I could probably just go through that list I sent to you about what we're gonna e-file.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
I used to work.
So this is dark in here.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to see in the queues, or did you want to wait until we configure it and you can get in there and kind of mess around with it on your own?
Can you do a for dummies walkthrough about show me from my login to get into this workflow section?
Sure.
Sorry.
So it's going to be different for yours because I have like the master list. I have all of the different counties that we use.
Oh, okay.
But once you click on the hyperlink and it brings you to this address, you're going to have to log in. And I can show you what the login screen looks like. So you're going to enter your username or your email address. So we'll identify that and give that to you. Hit next. Give your password. And hit sign in. And now we know who you are. We know that you're Jen. You work for Erie Court Administration. So we're going to give you the workflow queues that you need. So you're only going to have this court administration workflow. Now, Lynn, you're going to have court administration and you're also going to have Erie Register of Wills. You're going to have both of these. So you can pop in and out of both. So we also have a
Okay.
proprietary workflow queue as well.
We're gonna need, so just as a side note, Becky from court administration she schedules every single incapacitated matter.
Mhm.
So even though she's with court administration, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, but we should have her own workflow so it doesn't get confused with anything that your office is doing.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
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 So this is going to be the Prothonotary office's queue. Lynn, this is going to be your office's queue. And then court administration is going to be a whole. So
Okay.
so Becky's going to have access to the court administration queue. Jen's going to have access to the court administration queue. But within the workflow, there's going to be other queues in
Okay.
here that are identified and locked down. So if you only want Jen and Kayla to see the orphans court review queue, when they both log in, it's going to be available here, but it won't be for Becky.
Okay.
I mean, it's
All right.
probably helpful for at least me to have access to Becky in case there's ever an issue, and
Yep.
then Lynn can walk me through whatever we need to.
So what would Becky's queue be called? So I can add that queue as well.
Guardian in cap.
Okay. I'll add both of those in the test environment, and I'll add Becky as a user as well.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
we'll need to practice sending some stuff.
What's her last name?
Hudson,
Hudson?
Hudson.
Okay. Okay. I'm also gonna give you the hold queue in case you want a diary or wait or send things off for X amount of days. If maybe you call the attorney and he's on vacation until next week and you say, okay, I'm not scheduling this until I talk to him or her. You can say, send this away to the hold queue and give it back to me in 11 days. Well, then it'll appear back in your queue on the 11th day as if it were a new filing, but you'll see that it was an old timestamp. It was an old date of filing. You'll see like, oh, this was the one that I need to call that attorney. It'll trigger you to remind you to go call that attorney and get a scheduled date. You can also use that.
I gotta,
Yeah.
whoops. I was gonna answer that, but go ahead.
Mm. Okay, so I have my workflow queues, I have my users, and Jen and Lynn, you guys will work together to give me the filing types. Once I get all of that information, I will schedule it to get configured in your test environment. We'll give you an update, let you know it's been configured, and give you the specs on it, on like where documents go, what documents they are, and where they go. And
All right, I gotta mute,
and you can review. Well, I think we're done.
okay.
All right, I'll send a follow-up on the recording, all the notes that we discussed.
After
Thank
them,
you
I just
everybody
go
so
well.
much.
All right, thanks, Alexa. Thanks, Jen. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you guys.
Thanks, Jen. Nice to meet you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take
See ya.
care.